Well, let's talk about some things that have been mentioned this morning, kind of like a press review. The most important one from a sports perspective, looking ahead to Sunday's Clásico, is that Tchouaméni would play as he completed the entire training session today. El País was reporting that Real Madrid is preparing an exemplary financial sanction after having opened an internal inquiry into both of them. Well, then, a fine meant to set an example for Valverde and Tchouaméni. I think that the idea of putting them on the market, no matter what, is far off, because there was talk about Real Madrid's internal disciplinary code, whose most extreme point is dismissal, right? And I don't think so. Obviously, if Madrid now, maybe the possibility opens up that they could actually make a painful sale, which wouldn't be so painful anymore, because if we talked about painful sales that could happen this summer, I think this situation has reached such a point that they're not painful at all anymore, right? The locker room has earned it. They've made it easier, haven't they? He says there's still no closure date for the disciplinary case, but the club has decided to fine both players for the incident that left the Uruguayan in the hospital. However, according to El País, there won't be a sports suspension, and the Frenchman will be able to play in the Clásico if Arbeloa sees it appropriate. As the hours have gone by, I'm more convinced that I don't buy the story about him slipping and hitting a table. I just don't buy it. It's hard to buy, especially because it's the typical thing people say when, hey, there have been cameras, because then, of course, there are the leakers, right? Then there are the leakers. So far, no one has actually said it was a punch. This morning, Iñaki Angulo said that someone had told him that, but I've only heard it from Iñaki, you know? We're always in the same situation here, that if we've only heard it from one person, let's just leave it at that. He'll have his sources and all that, but it's not exactly a groundswell. And let me make a quick aside. What Miguel Serrano was saying yesterday, that on the bench, Arbeloa is called Cone by the Spanish players. Manolo Lama is discussing it today and tweeted about it earlier. Careful, because now there are more people supporting that theory or that information. But anyway, the thing is, he says, from what I've been picking up in the last few hours, from everything I've been hearing, I think there was a punch involved, because the whole thing about, no, he slipped and hit himself on a table is just too far-fetched. It's far-fetched. Anyway, let's hope it's all just speculation. That's why I'm going to make a video later talking about who's to blame for the things we've seen. I mean, the most shocking things we've seen that have been public, televised, you know? Someone laughing and leaving on a key day and going on vacation right in the middle of May. The other one, challenging his coach during a substitution. You already know where this is going, right? There are more than just those, you know? I'm only referring to things we've seen, since people claim someone else went out drinking, but I haven't seen that. But here he exposes several people. Well, aside from this, he says, and Marca is reporting it too, that some Real Madrid players openly disrespected him. And also, it even seemed like they wanted Xabi Alonso to notice. Well, by whispering while he was talking or pretending to fall asleep during the tactical briefings. I mean, not only that, of course, the question here is, when did Vinicius fall asleep? That's another thing that really happened. Did he really fall asleep, or was he doing it according to this theory, you know, to make fun of the coach? I mean, if it was the second reason, obviously that's even worse, but, well, they say that happened, but we haven't seen it either. We saw from Vinicius what we saw, and the same goes for the other guy. But the things that are being said, when several people say them, it really seems like that's how it happened. This led to a group of players like Tchouaméni being loyal to Xabi Alonso, and that's where two sides were formed, right? And they've been there since before Xabi Alonso left until now, and even after he left, naturally, because they can't forgive them for it. With that feeling of, you guys made them kick this guy out, and we were doing reasonably well, even though, in fact, in December, Alonso at the helm lost against Celta, against City. It was a disaster. They were thrashed by the Madrid team in the league derby, and that was much earlier, in September. And there were problems. Sure, there were problems, but give me those sporting problems now. Give me all of them, considering how we finished the season, right? Because back then, Madrid wasn't that far from Barca. And well, I think I always thought that things could be turned around. More things that have been talked about this morning. The Athletic says that the Real Madrid locker room believes that the person who has to apologize for what happened, who should be more sorry for what happened, is Fede Valverde. And that his behavior throughout the year as a captain is not what it should be. Wearing the captain's armband. What I've told you in the last videos, by the way, today, Mbappé came out like that again. It's unbelievable. And everything this guy's doing, what I think Kylian is doing, is explained in the previous video. This isn't a coincidence. Be very careful with him. Another theory exists. I'll explain more in the next video. And, well, this is Mbappe's face, right? Leaving training today. Today, he did roll up the window, or it was already up. But again, he's laughing, knowing there was a camera there, even though Mbappé was one of Xavi's supporters. And in the end, we'll have to know everything. And I don't know if we'll ever find out. I think we're getting closer. That there were those two camps, and Mbappé believed that Xavi should have stayed and so on. I think he was right about that. The thing is, your behavior afterward, kid, even if they're agreeing with you now, and you see that this circus has fallen apart, and it's a feeling like, well, look, in the end, this really had no solution. Leave me alone because I scored my goals and the disaster came from somewhere else. Yeah, but don't put on such a crude show, man. I mean, tone it down a bit, damn it. This is Madrid, man. I think this guy cares more about himself than the club, like many others there, but he's on another level. Because when it comes to communication, this guy manages a lot, knows how to handle himself. And as we said before, if he's laughing as he leaves training or he rolls down the window with cameras around, he's doing it for a reason. This is what I was telling you about Manolo Lama's buddy, saying the same thing as Latigo Serrano about the Spanish players at Real Madrid. They call Arbeloa con. Sir was saying that the Real Madrid locker room and squad prefer Jurgen Klopp much more than Jose Mourinho. Do they see Jose Mourinho as a ticking time bomb who might clash with them over egos and make things worse? Well, I say let it be Mourinho and go all in. And if between Mourinho and Kim Jong-un they think Kim Jong-un is worse, well, Kim Jong-un too, right? Here, cranking up the pain level more and more. I mean, let them suffer because they've earned it, without a doubt. And then this has been tremendous. It's an image from the show Chiringuito, which you can't see well here, but I'll tell you something. If it has come out that this, which is a Real Madrid kit man picking up a bag from a delivery guy outside the training ground, and I know the area perfectly. It's a roundabout outside the training ground. If they say this is a bag, because it really looks like it, it's just that you can't see it very well here, but it's a bag with food inside. According to what they say, they're pastries. Arbeloa is just Arbeloa. I'm not blaming him, but he stayed on the sidelines and thinks this is Little House on the Prairie. And so now, if he's handing out pastries today, it's like, come on, let's let bygones be bygones. Nothing happened here. Let's be happy because we have a really tough match on Sunday. Maybe he's just trying to smooth things over since he knows he's leaving soon, thinking, for the short time I have left, let these guys be reasonably happy. Well, it could be a tactic, a kind of shock therapy for the moment right now. But of course, if you've spent all these months, and keep in mind, there was a good period for Madrid when they knocked out City and had a streak of victories. If you've spent all these months praising them, not saying much, and now that the league is lost, you start saying we should have run more, well, I don't think that's good management. Currently, I don't consider him one of the main ones to blame, but this is a joke. A delivery guy giving a bag of pastries to a Real Madrid equipment manager is just ridiculous. Anyway, there's a lack of sense of humor because, hey, they could have asked for cakes or something else, right? They could have gone that way, at least to have a laugh and then something else. This isn't really news, but I did like the captaincy thing, the captaincy. I already said in the previous video that I would take it away from Valverde, without a doubt. I would stop with the nonsense about seniority in the captaincy and put Courtois there, who really raises the IQ level within the squad. And some might think the same about Courtois, that yes, he speaks very well and all, but maybe he lacks a bit of leadership. But tell me who. Besides, I don't think Courtois lacks leadership. It's true that when it comes to a goalkeeper, I always prefer a captain who's a field player. But man, in this situation, Courtois seems to me like one of the most admirable people there, both as a person and intellectually, without a doubt. Anyway, look, in a conversation, they had a conversation with Figo, but I won't play it all since it's long and the audio quality is poor. They mention a possible coaching change at Real Madrid, suggesting someone like Mourinho with a firm hand. Figo responds, I didn't know Mourinho had a firm hand. I've had him as a translator, as an assistant, as a head coach, as a friend, and I've never felt a firm hand. He says, I don't think Real Madrid needs a coach with a firm hand. You have to know how to manage 25 egos and understand football. A firm hand doesn't work. Mourinho has a firm hand. Maybe it's not the kind we think it is, but he has a firm hand and he doesn't hesitate. Let's stop talking about the hand. Let's talk about his resolve. He doesn't hesitate to act, and that's what's needed here. That's what's needed in this locker room. Anyway, that's been a bit of a press review. Later, I'll make my video about who's to blame, the ones I consider responsible in this huge crisis, one of the worst we've had at Real Madrid in recent years. That's it. Hope all goes well. Enjoy your Friday. Like, subscribe, comment, and share if you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Bye.